Hey, everybody out there. So, right now, we just went live, and I'm with Chris Travels and also Brian, who goes by the Adventure Van Man on YouTube. And so, I'll have Chris go ahead and introduce himself and let us know if he has anything that's kind of new in his world. Chris, you want to go ahead?
Hey everybody, what's going on? In my world, it's just on the road, man. Continuously traveling around pretty much non-stop now. Not really getting too much of a breather in between website I'm working on, LLC formation, all that fun stuff, and here pretty soon. Oh, just getting back on the road actually tomorrow. I think about it. We've had a couple days to sit back and kind of get some stuff done, and it's been very productive for me. But yeah, just getting stuff done, one day at a time.
So, how's the web development coming? You done much more with the website there?
Oh yeah, no, I actually have a new one in the works right now. It's about 75% of the way done, and it's looking good. I still have some fine tuning. I need to figure out how, basically what I'm looking at right now is how when people place an order to get an email sent to me and other recipients that will be basically taking care of everything. You know what I mean? Like, just so it's seamless, there's no miscommunications, things get sent when they're supposed to be sent, and we're just kind of going from there.
Yeah, totally. I completely get that. I'm in the middle of building out the one that I'm building too, and I'm having some frustrations with some code breaking. So I get that. Brian, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself and like let us know how you got into the van life and how long you've been doing it and whatnot?
Yeah. My name's Brian. I am a native of San Diego, and I have been living in my van for the last year and 1 month. I moved into it February of last year, and I basically found the lifestyle through blogs. It didn't even occur to me to look on YouTube for anything related to, living in an RV or van. And when I first found videos on YouTube, it was right around a month or two before I moved into my van. I found channels like Chad's Living the Van Life, Chris's channel, I forget what it was called back then.
Tyler
And,
Durden '09.
okay, yeah. And for me, it just basically gave me a sense of community and assured me that there were people out there doing what I wanted, something close to what I wanted to do. So after about a year doing it, I decided that I wanted to kind of give back and just kind of provide a little bit of assurance for everybody out there that, I'm in one of the most expensive cities in the country and it's doable. I'm getting by.
That's sweet. So, Chris, before you get yanked away for a meal, I thought maybe we could have you discuss a little bit of like how long you actually did the actual van thing, and then how quickly you went on to Zep, and you know what your costs were on your first trip.
My first trip, it was very, very cost effective. I'm rewriting or re-editing a book that I wrote then with my husky right now, and just the way that I talk about money, like I was freaking out over $7. Like I was getting ready to take this route that you could take, like a scenic route. It was a Skyline Drive, I believe, and it was $7, and I couldn't believe that I had to pay $7 to go on a drive, and how I had to decide if I wanted to try and save that money to buy Chef Boyardee or or take the scenic route. So when I first did that, I think I did the whole trip. It was a little over a month for about $600. No, not even 600. What's up, G? Dinner's ready? Okay. Everybody's waiting on me. But I'll just follow up with that. It's been a progression. G says hi, by the way.
Hi,
It's,
G.
it's definitely been a progression for me because for me, I was at different places in my life each time. So each time I just graduated college, the first one. The second one, I worked for a while to save up money to travel in the van. And then with Zep, I saved up money, then worked again. And now for this, because of the whole YouTube thing and also working summers in Alaska, I'm now in this Class A. So it's been a progression for me, and it's definitely like money-wise, layout-wise, knowledge-wise, but it's always continuing. My knowledge of these vehicles, my understanding of how finances work traveling. Granted, I do things differently than most, but just my understanding of just the whole thing in general is just, it's been building blocks. It's just been continuously going right along with my vehicles to my knowledge, my understanding of everything and how the whole thing works. So it's
All right.
always a learning process.
All right, cool. So we'll kind of swing back over. Were you going to go and grab dinner and then be back, or what were you thinking,
Yeah,
Chris?
I'm gonna grab dinner and I'm gonna come right back out here and see if you guys are here. James, you sent that to my Facebook inbox, so once I get back, I'll re-click that. But thanks for everybody that's listened to me rant and say a bunch of random stuff. But I'm gonna jump off here. Got an Easter dinner that I'm gonna eat, and hope everybody's doing well out there. And happy Easter, everybody.
Hey, thanks, Chris. Happy Easter.
See you in a bit,
guys.
Chris. So, Brian, I had a real good time hanging out with you over there in San Diego. Things still going pretty good over there, buddy?
You know, they are. You know, my attitude's been pretty good lately. You know, I've been really trying to just focus on working and making money and staying focused on the goals. That keeps me motivated and happy. So it's working out.
Right on.
Yep.
So I guess what I'd like to start doing right now, Brian, is maybe go through what your budget is and what your average expenditure every month is, and how it changed when you actually went out on the road, and then we'll probably open it up to more questions. You guys out there right now, I'll go ahead and let you all know that are kind of viewing right now. We'd like you to go over to Google Moderator. There's a link in the description on this very video that you're watching if you're watching off of YouTube. Please go over there and ask your questions. And I'm going to go ahead and let Brian give his 2 cents here and how his budget's going and whatnot.
All right, cool. Yeah, well, you know, I've never really been too good with my money. I just tend to not pay attention to the outgoing so much. I know what I make, and I know that I can keep spending till I almost don't have any money and time it right till I get paid again. So I've always kind of been a paycheck to paycheck person. And you know, as my pay has increased over the years at certain jobs, it's kind of like people say with a living space. The more space you have, you just get more stuff and you fill it up. With me, the more money I made, I just spent more. And I kind of just tended to not really pay attention at all. I really didn't want to know what I was spending, kind of out of sight, out of mind. So when I moved into a van, things became so simple and in my face that you just can't avoid it, you know. And having such a small space, it became a lot harder to spend money. You can't really buy material stuff, items. It's basically feeding yourself and doing things, whether it's eating out or seeing live music or taking a trip, you know, mainly gas money. So my scenario was, I don't know if it's unique or not, but when I moved into my van, I also started working less. So I took a decrease, my income went way down. And I almost kind of wanted to do that on purpose, like see how much money, how little I could live on. Like I said earlier, I got turned on to a lot of this through blogs, and most of those blogs are written by retired people that are full-timers. So they're living on their Social Security or pension, and so I was kind of inspired by people that had a set income. It was low, but they didn't have to work. They were free to live a very simple, frugal life and get by with what they had. So I kind of wanted to see if I could do that. And I did. You know, I make $1,200 a month, and I live on about $700 a month. That leaves me between $300 and $500 to save. But life always throws stuff at you. You know, $700 a month is just the bare minimum. If I add on like van expenses, I've had to put tires on the van, a water pump, brakes. You know, stuff comes up. So I figured out an average in the last year. I've averaged about $125 in maintenance on the van. So That brings me up another, $125. If I go on little trips, I spend more gas. So I've found that I've only been able to save about $250 to $300 a month on my $1,200 a month income. And I live pretty simple, man. I mean, it's, I don't have anything on top of my gas and food except for cell phone, insurance. I have a P.O. box, registration, and that's it.
So, what do you think it changed your monthly expenses when you started hitting the road a little bit, when you went over to Quartzsite and went and saw some sites there, buddy?
Well, of course, the gas, bring an extra couple tanks of gas. And I found, for me, it was one of my first kind of boondocking trips outside of the trip to Slab City. I stayed there for actually 5 days. And Quartzsite is interesting because you're out in the middle of nowhere, but there still is a little town, and it's got a McDonald's, a Carl's Jr., a Burger King, and I found myself, as well as I saw a lot of other campers, they're just driving in McDonald's every evening and getting, burgers for dinner. And, it's interesting because when you get out in places like that, that can actually be cheaper than going to one of the markets in town because things are usually more expensive. So you either have to plan way ahead, stock up at Walmarts and stores like that, or I'm sure when you're on the road, if you just kind of picking things up as you go, you can end up paying a higher price, and that's where I found my money started to kind of go quicker than I thought it would.
Right. So, are you figuring that when you were on the road, it was a couple $100 more a month or less, or?
I spend an average of $180 a month just in the city. That's getting me to work, getting me to and from my day camps. A lot of times that's a good 20-mile drive inland to the coast because I like to keep cool by the water. So sometimes it's $200 a month, and that's just in town. And I found when I went on the road, it's just stretched out. Instead of going around in circles in the little city here, I'm just stretching those miles out. So it's actually about the same. Okay. The problem is when I'm on the road, I'm not working, so I don't have the income coming in. So the scenario I'm in is I've kind of proved myself like $1,200 is a pretty comfortable amount to be living this lifestyle. And if I could make that money remotely, I'd be able to travel free. It's just I'm stuck to a job that's making me that money. So, I'm kind of living this fantasy life where it's like I either need to make some more money now to save up to get ahead, or just take a job somewhere, travel there, get a little traveling out of my system, and then make some money for a while, like with Amazon or whatever I find. So
I think most people actually do that. From what I've heard, there's some people that have done a really great job in setting up that mobile income. I hope to do a good job of that and maybe help share that along with people. But I'm curious. What are you eating out all the time? Because when I met you, you had a pretty good setup over there in San Diego for cooking meals.
I still do. I have that featured in a lot of my videos because it's something I do a lot. And for me, honestly, it comes down to laziness. And it's because I'm in an area where even if I'm at a day camp, it's got trees all around me, I can still pull out of there and in half a mile be somewhere where I can get a cheap burger. And sometimes it's just laziness. I'll even have food in my fridge and I just won't feel like breaking out the stove. It's so simple and easy, but so I really try to catch myself on that, break myself of, because it's the added expense of the gas. If I can just cook food where I'm already at, I don't have to drive that 5-mile round trip to go get a burger. So overall, I think cooking my own food is cheaper, but like I said, sometimes it comes down to laziness, or if I am in between spots, I pass by somewhere, I'm going to stop and spend $5 on a quick meal rather than go to the market and get food and cook. So that's how it's been for me.
what do you feel that since you've been out in the van that you spend per day on food? You know, both. I mean, I just average between your cooking and your actual your eating out and whatnot.
Well, I'm pretty sure I'm right around $300 a month for food. That's been my average, and from what I've heard, that's pretty much the national average for a single person. So that's 75, a week, a day. That's about $10 a day, basically, a little over $10. So and for me, I do need to mention my job that I work at 5 days a week. I get a free meal there before I leave. So basically, every day I work, I have one full meal that tides me over for a lot of days. I'll just have a snack in the morning, eat my free meal when I leave work, and then I'm good till dinner. I think that's how I've been saving a little money. And then there's days where I just feel like eating, and that's just what I want to do. So I justify it by I've been working hard and I treat myself to, some extra food.
Right on. So I'm also curious. You said that you spent about $180 a month on gas, just getting back and forth, right, for work?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So what are you spending out on your cell phone bill?
I'm actually on a really cheap plan right now with T-Mobile, and it's only $30 a month. I get unlimited text and data, and it's pretty slow data. Like to watch YouTube videos, I have to sit and wait for it to buffer forever before I can watch it. But it's unlimited. So, but I only have an hour of talk time a month. And I've found, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to upgrade, maybe even change carriers within the next couple weeks. As I'm starting to try to communicate better with people and getting these jobs in other places, I'm seeing that I need to be on the phone more. So I'm gonna upgrade to either an unlimited talk plan or a much more minutes of a talk plan. So
You should check and see if you have Cricket over there where you are.
it is available. Yep.
Oh, okay. So Cricket was just purchased by AT&T, so they're moved over onto AT&T towers. I have unlimited talk, text, and 20 gigs of data per
Wow.
month for $60 a month.
That's pretty good.
So just an idea on that. So I mean, really, you don't have to spend any more than $60 a month on your phone bill, and you can have 20 gigs of data. So we'll see if I burn through it or not.
Nice. That's a lot of data, but yeah, if you're watching videos and uploading, it goes fast.
Yeah, no, it does. So, what other? Obviously, you have your insurance. What's
Yeah.
your vehicle insurance run you?
Okay, I actually have all that written right here. So yeah, cell phone is $30. My insurance for the van, I pay monthly, so it's $30 a month also. I have a PO box also that I pay per year, and that breaks down to like $6 a month, so it's not very much. The registration on the van is like $100, $106 a month, so that's like $9. I'm sorry, $106 a year. So that's like $9 a month. I have satellite radio too. That's like $15 a month. So that's all my bills in complete right there.
So, what kind of income do you think you would need to say in 6 months to give yourself a year off?
Oh, geez. It depends on what I want to do in that year off. But I think, because really when it comes down to it, if you talk to people that travel and have time to do it, if you're not trying to cover a ton of miles really quickly, you can travel 50 to 100 miles a day and basically not spend much more than I'm already spending in the city. So I would say to sustain for like a full year, I would probably go off my low figure of just my survival number, which was around $570 a month. So times that times 12, I really think you can live on close to $600 a month. That's including, spending money on gas, but that's not including anything that comes up. And when you drive a vehicle, you took a trip. There's always stuff that comes up: flat tires, repair here, tow there. So I would want to tack on another maybe safety net of like $100 a month at least for emergency maintenance. I would figure. I don't know.
Well, I personally feel on that line. I personally myself feel like if you were wanting to be safe, really all you need to do is plan to have a couple of $1,000, $2,000 to $3,000 tucked away in case anything big happens. You can use those funds to do anything that comes up as far as maintenance is concerned, and then replenish it as you go.
Yeah.
It's really hard to like quantify exactly how much you're going to have out in maintenance costs because everybody's vehicle is going to have a different age. Every vehicle is going to have a difference in reliability. I think what's important is if you have enough tucked away that you can handle replacing a transmission if you needed to, and you replenish those funds before you go and spend anything else if something else comes along, I don't see you having a big issue with it. No, and obviously when you live in it versus when you're living a static lifestyle, you're not going to have extra maintenance costs to speak of, right?
Yeah.
I mean, just personally, my perspective on it. So everybody that's out there that maybe hasn't seen the Google moderator just yet, guys, it's in the description below on the YouTube video on YouTube that's live right now. And if you could go over there and ask any questions that you have, that would be great. I'm going to start reading off some questions here that I see that are posted for Brian and whatnot, and then we'll go from there. If there's more questions, I'll keep those going until our time allotment. Otherwise, I'll go into my experiences currently living in the van. So to start off here, Brian, we got a question here. What do you do for entertainment while in the van, meaning stuck in the van due to, say, bad weather and remote spots or nights, times like that? I know for a fact that Brian spends a good amount of time in his van in the evening. Go ahead, Brian. You want to answer that? What do you do for entertainment, buddy?
I have a few different things I do. I do watch a lot of YouTube. I did have a TV in there, and I had like a little media player box where I could load it up with, like ripped DVDs to file, and you could put them on a flash drive. And I would watch movies. I play guitar, so sometimes I'll play guitar in there. Since I've been doing YouTube videos, I spend a lot of time working on videos. I also like to take a lot of still pictures. So I'm always kind of going throughout the day. I take a lot of footage and pictures, and the whole process of transferring those from the memory card to the laptop. So I guess I spend a lot of time on my laptop as well, just doing various things. I read. I've never really gotten bored in my van. If it's a situation where it's bad weather, just the experience of feeling fortunate to have the shelter gives you a little bit of excitement, kind of like a childlike giddiness, like you're safe from the outside and it's so close out there. You hear the rain pounding on the van, and so yeah, I've never really gone stir crazy or gotten bored. I've always kind of have something to tinker around with, or yeah, so I hope that helps.
All right, right on, man. So let's go on to the next one here. Well, I guess maybe I should give you guys a little bit of mine. Right now, I spend so much time, to be honest, at work, and then working on some of the projects that I have that I don't really end up with any time to just like burn. But when I was out on my trip and I had some bad weather, I have all kinds of DVDs put in like an old CD case. I used to watch a lot of those on my laptop and whatnot. Having Netflix, I do watch a lot of Netflix and whatnot. I'd say that there really isn't a whole big difference when if you're stuck inside in a house or if you're stuck
Same.
inside in your RV or van.
Yeah.
You agree?
I agree. It's very much the same. I have to remind people of that. Like, how much time do you sit at home and on your couch in front of TV? Like, it's the same deal. You're just in a vehicle.
So I don't really want to respond to this question here. I'm going to go skip that one. Sorry, whoever was on that one. How do you save or plan for mechanical problems or repairs? So I kind of already explained the way I think you should handle it. As far as like saving, guys, when you're saving, the most important thing you can do is pay your savings first and then make it difficult for you to access it. So me personally, I have an account that I don't give myself any access to. So once I go and physically deposit money, I would have to go and physically withdraw money, which means I have to go to a specific bank at a specific time, within their banking hours, and make a conscious choice to do it. It helps prevent me from doing it, and that's kind of the way I do it. And I make sure I take that money out of my income immediately when I get it, to pay first. That's how I save. How about you? How about you over there, Brian?
Well, basically where I'm at, any money I save right now with my income is pretty much that's what I have in mind. It's all, I mean, the van is basically, it's not everything I have, but it is the biggest part of my investment in my life. It's my van and then the possessions I have in it. So pretty much any money I save is either geared towards doing something to upgrade the van, to prolong its longevity, or save for gas, which is going to go into the van. So I would say pretty much anything outside of my expenses is in some way directed towards the vehicle or doing something with it. So yeah, I'm at a point now where it's like every penny I have, I just put it away. It's my fund for getting on the road.
Right on. So basically, the next question that we have here is, what kind of health coverage do you have, Brian, and what are the costs of it?
Okay, right now I do not have any health coverage. I looked into, the free health coverage when the applications were going on towards the end of last year, and I've had health coverage before. The last that I had, I was paying quite a bit. It was like almost $200 a month, and that was when I was running a business also, so it was almost kind of necessary. I could write off a lot of it at that time. But right now I don't have anything, and I would say that brought to mind, like, as far as my savings, the only thing outside of saving money for the van would be any personal emergency that came up. If I hurt myself and needed to see a doctor or something came up like that. But I'm one that's always been pretty healthy. I've even when I had a doctor, I've never been one to go see doctors often. The way I look at it, if something disastrous happened, I'm going to get taken to a hospital anyway, and we'll sort out how I take care of it when it's done. It may not be the responsible way to do it, but yeah, any money that's put aside obviously would go towards a vehicle breakdown or my body breaking down.
Well, so for me, I have I have some things that I have to worry about that most people don't. I have to be careful, and I have regular uh, lab testing that I have to do, and I have every 6 months I have to go through an MRI. So for me personally, on my own, I do have health coverage. I've gone ahead and I've been on Obamacare, you know. So when I first started out on it, it was 256 a month for myself and Catalina. So that's for both of us. Uh, I had ended up not making any money towards the last part of last year. Obviously, I was on my trip, made very, very little money, so that cost has actually come down. So the most recent one is 206 a month for both Catalina and I, and she worked full time the full year. I didn't work full time the full year, so that's the way that I cover my health care. Now, if there wasn't that kind of care, there are a multitude of private options out there now, and there's actually clubs that can be joined. Heck, that's a pretty good idea. Maybe we should see about having the RV and van community kind of join a buyers club for medical insurance through private care. What do you think of that, Brian?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. You know, I will say this. Since I have not had health care, I actually did break my arm, and I was able to find a clinic in San Diego, and I was able to see a doctor, get x-rays. It turned out that the fracture was in a place where they couldn't put a cast on, so it was just in a sling. I got a prescription, and it cost me less than $200 for all of that to take care of that visit. I had a follow-up visit included, and you know, that was all for one incident, and I basically paid less than I would for a monthly premium. So that's just kind of how I've looking at it, is where, you know, if I was in a situation, and it might change, something may come up health-wise where I do need I need frequent visits with a doctor. If that ever comes up, and when it does, I'm sure it will, I'm approaching 40, then I probably would look into healthcare. Or maybe even when I got on the road, or we're getting more higher income work camping jobs, I don't know. But for now, I'm just kind of winging it.
You know, you do make a pretty good point on healthcare. If it wasn't for my unique situation, most people out there, you know, you got to remember that healthcare is, you know, these insurance companies, they're doing it for profit. So usually, if you're young and healthy and you don't have any existing conditions or anything like that, you're probably going to actually be better served just paying for your health care when those very rare moments arise than you would be to pay an insurance company. You know, but I, you know, I'm definitely one that has health insurance, and I have, you know, constant costs in it. So, you know, it does end up saving me some because I have to do MRIs and whatnot. And then, you know, I get lab work every 2 weeks. So uh, that's just the way it is, you know,
Yeah.
for me. So if you have something existing, it's not a big deal. There's all kinds of ways, you know. You can contact multiple insurance companies, Aetna, Blue Cross. You can look into the Obamacare like I'm on and whatnot. But I think we're going to go ahead and move on to the next question here, which is how do you save for an RV when you're already on a tight budget? I'm going to go ahead and let Brian have that, and we'll say how do you save for a van, right?
Yeah. Well, that's actually something. I'll start with this. I'm going to probably make a video of this and include some pictures. I actually purchased a small RV before the van. I bought a little Toyota Dolphin. It was an old, 1979, I think, in really nice shape. It ran great. It was only like 19 feet. You know, you could stand up. It had bathroom, shower, you know, the whole deal. And I actually chose to get rid of it and go into something smaller, the van, just because I felt like I could save more. I just felt like that RV, that little mini motorhome, was going to slowly suck a lot of my money away. And I just felt that initially, in my situation, something a little more solid and reliable, like a cargo van, I would be able to get ahead. I felt that I wouldn't have to probably dump as much money into it. So the way I swung that deal is I saved up for the RV. I bought it for like $2,500. I was able to turn it around and get pretty much what I paid for it, and in that time span, I saved up another $1,000. So the good thing with this is, as long as your vehicle's not totally dead, if you want to upgrade, you're going to be selling something. You're always going to have a vehicle you're going to get rid of, and hopefully there's at least $1,000 or so in that. So I'm kind of taking into consideration, when I do find another, I want a high top van. I want a van I can stand up in. I'm hoping that I can keep my van in good shape, keep it converted as a camper, and get maybe even more than I paid for it. Put that towards my new vehicle with what I've saved up. So that's my plan.
Okay. Very good. So as far as me for saving, with a tight budget, guys, there's nobody that can say that they don't have something that they splurge on. I mean, if there isn't something that you splurge on and your budget is still like extremely tight, just go work a couple extra days, and put that money a week. I I don't know that I think that there's anybody out there that works 7 days a week and has an extremely tight budget and they can't put anything away and they don't splurge on anything. It's very unlikely, and especially in our consumer culture, there's always something you can get rid of. I know most people have something like either their alcoholic beverages, Starbucks, just converting from going to Starbucks every morning or to a coffee shop every morning and using Folgers at home,
Right.
could probably save you $30, $100 a month. Wouldn't you expect that too, Brian?
I agree, and those are the little things that I've been trying to keep tabs on. I cut out a lot of the extra stuff. I drink mainly water. I cut out soda, cut out a lot of the alcohol. What else? I used to eat a lot more junk snack type foods, chips, sweet stuff, candies, cookies. I pretty much have cut all that out, and you can save those are all pretty expensive items. And if you can kind of, not only are they kind of expensive, but if it's a regular thing, I found I was investing in a couple 12 packs of soda, plus, a 6-pack or 12-pack of beer, and on top of having space to store it, it's just a habit that I don't need, especially in my situation. I don't need to be, those are things that should be like a reward when needs to tighten up, because it'll get me there faster, so.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely understand on that. So I got another question here, Brian, for us. Do you ever feel that the noises you might make while you're sleeping and are unaware of that other people might hear outside the van might give you away, or do you do anything to counter that?
That's a great question. I actually can snore. If I lay flat on my back, I tend to sleep on my side, but a lot of times I end up flat on my back, and I do snore really loud, to the point to where I wake myself up. And if I have my roof vent open, I've wondered if someone was walking by and maybe had their dog with them and had to stop and let their dog use the bathroom near my van and they were being quiet. I wonder if they could hear me snoring in my van. I don't know. It's never been an issue, but I have wondered that.
Chris,
Go ahead.
Chris is back on here with us. Let's ask him that question.
Hey,
so
everybody.
have you ever been in your van and worried about like the noises you might make when you're sleeping, completely unaware of them, that others might hear to give you away per se? And is there anything that you've done to counter that?
Yeah, it's definitely happened. It's still, well, in Zepp it was that way, especially further down south, because you obviously have the windows open and whatnot, and that could definitely give you away. But for me, you know, I just I really haven't done anything to combat it because I usually parked in spots to where it was a little iffy if somebody could have heard me, but when it comes down to it, I just kind of went with the flow, and I never had any problems. You know, I never had any instances I can think of right now to bring up where something bad actually happened. So it worked out just fine.
You know, guys, I'm kind of with these guys. Like, could there be? Yeah, I guarantee you, I probably snore or something. You know, but I haven't had any troubles with it. I haven't had anything like cause anybody to bother me about it. The It's not a big concern. I don't try to protect myself. Heck, I even keep the windows cracked so I get fresh air. So that's how little I'm worried about it. Uh, let's go on to the next question here. Uh, so, Chris, maybe you can go ahead on this one. It was one that we were asked a little bit earlier. What do you do for entertainment while in the van? Meaning, like stuck in the van due to bad weather in remote spots or nights, times like that, buddy.
Edit photos, edit videos. YouTube's been a big part of my life for the last, oh man, I'd say 3 years now. So I've always had photos to edit. I've always had videos to edit. Like right now, these last 2 days I've had off to get stuff done. It's been nothing but editing and getting stuff done on the RV, like things I need to get done. But before YouTube, when I was with my Husky, I had a laptop and just old DVDs. Watched multiple movies over and over again. There was one instance actually earlier when I was talking about Skyline Drive, it was foggy the entire time I was up there. Like, to give away a little bit in the book, like I was there for 3 days just waiting for the fog to clear, and all I did was like walk my dog through the trails in the woods and went back. I'd watch an episode of The Office, and then I guess at that time I was studying for my TEFL. My teaching English is a foreign language degree, so I'd work on that for an hour or two and then go back and forth. So I guess for me the laptop has always been an avenue for me to find entertainment. I've always found myself working on that or watching something on the laptop.
Cool, awesome. So here's one, Brian. I don't know that. I think this is one for Chris and I, anyways, to start off with. And so, Chris, what's your take on handling having a relationship while you're living in the van or RV?
It's stressful, man. Like I've been thinking about doing this. Get that glare out of the way. I've been thinking about doing a video on this in particular because it's stressful on a relationship because there's just so many facets you don't think about, like the navigation, trying to figure out where you want to go, where you want to eat, compared to when you're not traveling. It's a lot different. You know, like whenever G and I are parked at a spot, we're at a national park, we're out hiking or whatever, it's a completely different atmosphere to where we're on the road. I'm not saying it's bad, but it definitely puts a bigger strain on it, I think. And actually living in a vehicle, and I'm sure, James, you can attest to this as well, you really learn things about the person. You really, you know, like you really get a real feel for the person. You really know if you can make it, because for a lot of us, I mean, I think the big demographic here, there are women, but the big demographic is single men in the RV, and you know, it's a very interesting thing because first of all, you got to find a woman. If you're a guy, you got to find a woman willing to do it. That's the big hurdle, number one. And then you also have the hurdle of getting your girlfriend, your friend, acclimated to the traveling, because there's the idea of the van life and the RV life, how cool it is and how awesome it is and how free you're going to be. And there's the reality of it. You know, it's still awesome, it's still cool, you're still free. There's moments on this trip I've just been driving down the road and just absolutely blown away by how blessed I am and how beautiful the landscape is and how lucky we are to all be alive type things. There's also times where you're just like, man, what am I doing? You know, like there's so many highs and lows that I think all three of us here, like, you really don't know it and I think you all can attest to this, you really don't know it until you live it, until you're there, until you have those highs and you have those lows, you know. So, you know, it just really depends. Same with relationships.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and talk about my situation a little bit. Like, so just recently, Catalina decided it was okay for me to start discussing that we've been living in the van together, okay, for about almost 6 weeks now, ever since the position over at the rental complex didn't work out. We got a 7-day notice to vacate, and we probably could have pushed it and made them go to court and all that, but we decided not to, and we figured we'd just go into the van and save money. We could have rented a room, all kinds of things. It was a real struggle for Catalina. Being in the van with Catalina, I will be very honest, has been a real had been a real strain. We're starting to get it figured out now, but had been a real strain. And I would say one of the toughest things to deal with having a relationship and living in an RV or living in a van is how difficult it is when you're having one of those arguments that sometimes is just like being together so much. What do you do to get away, right? And I'll be honest. There was a couple of nights that I got out of the van and I walked back behind some 24-hour fitness or some Walmart and back behind the building and just stood out there and called Living Free and just talked to him and was like, man, I don't know how I'm gonna do this. Like maybe this won't work or whatever. And you know, I remember one night it was even raining and I was trying to crunch up underneath one of the eaves outside of the van when I let Catalina stay in there just because I needed that moment. And I think not having the plan and us experiencing that like made it more difficult, and then also her dealing with her recent family loss and just that experience and trying to be somebody to help emotionally for someone, and then but you can't even get a break from it can be difficult. So you know, I don't know if Chris has had any moments like that. Have you had any moments like that?
Not where I had to leave the vehicle, but mine's a little bit bigger. I can shut off a whole room, I guess. You know, but no, man, I really know exactly what you're talking about, and it's things like you said, like things that'd be a normal thing in a relationship, like it wouldn't be a discussion, it wouldn't escalate. On a scale from 0 to 10, it might be a 1 or a 2, but when you're in those closed environments and you're stressed, you know, like traveling like this takes a toll on your body. It takes a toll on your mind, and people don't understand that again until you're living it. And you know, it's definitely something that when it's small, nothing normally would come from it. It escalates from a 1 to a 2 to a 5 or a 6. You know, and you can use that scale. But what I'm getting used to now after a month in, G as well, I believe, it's you understand that normally this would not be a big deal. Like, she's stressed about this, and that's why it's like that. Or I'm stressed about this, and this is why I'm frustrated right now. And you just realize it, and you have to move on. It's just part of it, you know.
Yeah. Absolutely, guys, and I'll attest to you. I mean, we had those moments. You know, most of them were in the early stages of it. I'm not going to say that we're not going to have another argument or anything like that, but the experience of feeling like I had to get out and stuff, I just haven't been having them so much more recently. And Catalina's starting to become a convert, even though she definitely wants to go RV now. Without a doubt, there's no way I could keep her in a van anymore. So, Brian, do you have anything to add to relationships?
Well, you know, I'm currently not really in a relationship. There is a woman in my life, and we have had a relationship before. And we stay in touch and are currently trying to make sure that we have a relationship that I don't really know what's going on, honestly, with that. But as far as traveling and vans, I haven't taken any trips with anyone recently in my current van, but I did do a cross-country trip about 12 years ago in my mid-20s. I drove from San Diego to Maine and back with my girlfriend at the time, and it was quite an experience. We did it in a Chevy Astro van, and yeah, definitely had a couple big blowouts, but we also had a lot of really good times. Like, I remember we like laughed so much, and like all these experiences and stops. You know, it really made it worth it all. It was a great experience. Yeah, and you know, it's one of those things to where I don't feel like I'm ready for it right now, but hopefully soon, you know, I can get myself in a position to try to have a travel partner.
Cool. Very cool.
I'm being called back again. We have some birthday cake.
Uh-oh. Go get that birthday cake, buddy.
Yeah,
Or
thanks,
we got to sing happy birthday. But this, like, you guys are coming close to the end now.
Yeah.
Thanks for inviting me, James, and maybe next week I'll have some internet. Maybe we can do another live video. We can catch up and kind of go from there. How's that sound?
Sounds good, buddy. I'll talk to you later, man.
All right, you guys have a good night. Like I said before, happy Easter, everybody, and catch you guys later.
All right, thanks, Chris.
Thank you, sir. See you guys later.
See you later, man. So I guess I'll go ahead and talk a little bit more about budget. I'm gonna get it, since all the questions have kind of shifted away from the original point of the video. I want to get back on my end of it. First of all, like, since Catalina and I have been in the van for two of us, we are living on about $1,100 a month. So we're really bad about cooking. Okay. So I would say that we eat out 97% of our meals, and just trying to find something quick or cheap or whatever. We're spending about $15 a day, sometimes a little more, on food. We have health insurance now is had been being $256, so I'll just go with that number. So that's about $706. We both have phones. Hers is $40 a month. Mine's $60. That's another $100. $806. Fuel has been really low since where we've chosen to stay. It's been pretty close to where we're working. So I would say we might even be less than $100 a month. But like, I've seen us put out $100 a month this last one. So there's that. Entertainment, to be honest, we've been just really focusing on paying off her credit cards and putting the money in to be able to sell a 2012 Nissan Altima that she had bought at auction while I was out on my trip, that we're gonna use. We're probably gonna be using at least part of those proceeds to help buy an RV. So I'll probably be like plugging a Nissan. Maybe you guys out there can tell me a little bit of how to sell it, but since I seem to be terrible at that. But anyways, I also we've had some costs in buying some like doing brake job and stuff like that. But really, everything has been it has only been a month and a half, and so I'm giving you numbers that I know a little bit more from the last month as being about $1,100 for the two of us. But we've been trying to live really cheap. We haven't been splurging too big until just this recently. The other night we had gone out and did a nice dinner out at the Spindletop and whatnot, which is a revolving restaurant here in Houston. But I had also done a video on the cost of my trip. I didn't really itemize it, but I'm gonna go ahead and let Brian here ask me some questions. Maybe he has specifically on the costs of my costs when I was actually out on the road on the trip when it was just me. You want to go ahead and shoot, Brian? You got any for me?
Yeah, sure.
Or am I putting you on the spot?
No, I know I did have a couple for you when we met up, and I know you answered them. I think I asked you, you know, what you started with and of course you were still on your trip, so you were still spending money. But I think for me the biggest issue that I've come across just in my situation is having to get the van worked on, and it being your home. I know you had an issue where you had to put your van in the shop. Did you have to leave it overnight, or were you able to wait it out during the day? How did that go down?
Yeah, when I was out on that trip and I had to leave it overnight one night. I actually talked them into letting me crash in it. I had to deal with
Okay.
having that conversation with them. I
Yeah.
didn't go get a motel or anything like that or take a cab. I talked them into letting me still stay in it and being in their closed area there at their mechanic shop. So
Okay.
yeah, so if you weren't allowed to do that, it could actually add cost. I don't know anybody that's tried and asked that's been told no. So
Yeah.
I know a few people have run into some mechanical problems, and they just requested that they let them know that they live in it, and they ended up letting them do it. So, any other questions?
Geez, I don't, not off the top of my head. No, I guess the only thing would be, as far as your future, how soon, what's your goals as far as getting out of the van and into the next rig?
Well, Catalina says as soon as possible, but I'm thinking 3 or 4 months.
Okay. Yeah. Now, is
I don't
that
know if you
something?
saw,
Is
but
that
we're going to be
something?
leaving for Florida. I don't know if you saw that.
Yes.
Okay, so I have a job out there that I'm going to go work. She's going to stay here and rent a room until the job seems like it's totally, like it's working out. I'm not having any problems before she quits hers and comes out. So that's the plan right now. We've developed a $1,800 a month budget that we're gonna hold to when we're out on the road. That's in our plans. That's not our big trip. I would say that's general United States, but you do know that we kind of have plans to make a jaunt all the way down through South America. So
Nice. Awesome.
that's probably going to be at least over a good year or so away, just because of situations and whatnot. But that's still in our plans, and I'm probably going to lose as far as the kind of RV that we're going to get, because first of all, Class Bs are pretty spendy,
Yeah. Yeah.
and she wants one sooner than later, and
Yeah.
she definitely seems to want to have a little more space. I think I'm going to be in older Class A.
Nice. Cool.
So that's what it looks like, anyways. So let's go ahead and we kind of did the budget stuff. We got some more questions here that I'd like to still kind of uh, go ahead and answer for another 10 minutes here, and then we're going to wrap up the live stream. I'll go ahead and ask you, Brian, this one first. What do you feel are basic first aid supplies, urban camping versus rural camping?
I do have basic. Have about 3 different little first aid kits. I've got 3 different ones because some of them have different things, other ones don't. I have had some first aid training, and you tend to make do with what you have. I feel like what I keep with me would take care of any basic major lacerations or anything, stuff like that. And I feel pretty confident with what I have. So yeah, what I have in the van is what is with me all the time. So whether I'm in the city or out in the middle of the desert, I've got the same first aid stuff on with me. I don't, stop and get anything extra.
So I don't have 2 different sets of first aid kit. I do have a first aid kit in the van. It's a basic one. It's going to
Yeah.
have your gauze, your sling, splint, I have several different types of band-aids, some antiseptics, and some things to clean wounds with. I've never had to use it, and I'll cross my fingers and let's hope that I never do have to use it. And let's go ahead and go on to the next question, unless you have anything to add, Brian. Do you have anything to add to that?
No, no.
No? All right. Um, so it looks like a question for Chris, guys. Sorry I didn't see that before he split, so we're gonna have to kill that question. Brian, when you're cooking dinner and the steam starts to build up on, other than opening the door, how do you get the steam out? And do you ever worry that the person out there on the street might call the police because they think you're homeless and a threat to them?
I do have a roof fan, and it sucks pretty much everything out of the van. Even if I don't have my doors open, the front windows are cracked, and it sucks air from the front, and it creates a really good cross breeze. And I'm never in a situation where I'm cooking in the van and I'm like in super stealth mode. When I'm cooking, I'm usually in a place where it's okay to be cooking. I'm in a parking lot. I cook outside actually more than I do inside. So yeah, it's never been an issue. If someone were to come up to me and be like, "Hey, why are you cooking in a parking lot?" I'd just tell them, "Hey, I'm on vacation." That's kind of my prepared answer.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good answer. I've only tried to cook a few times, like actually in the van. Most of the time, cooking is only at parks or things like that, or camp areas or whatnot. I just I don't I don't think that I would ever plan on being somewhere where I was trying to be completely unnoticed and decide to cook. I just
Yeah.
I don't think that's a good idea. Uh, the You'd be surprised how good a roof vent fan can get rid of steam and whatnot. What has your experience been with that? Does your vent fan do perfectly just fine in vacating it all, or do you have some
Yeah.
smell stay?
It works really good. Obviously, if you're cooking something really greasy and there's splatter, it's going to get on things. It's hard to see all of that visually. It just splatters. And so if I'm cooking something like that, I generally try to cook outside. I do things like inside, I'll boil water for things that need boiling water, or I'll make coffee. I'll do things like a grilled cheese or quesadilla inside. It's quick and easy, not a lot of cleanup. So things like that with the fan on, it's no big deal. I wipe down inside the walls with the cleaners to kind of keep it smelling fresh. Never really been an issue.
All right. There's another question here, Brian. As far as what do you do to handle being awoken at night? How do you deal with it when somebody's waking you up and told you to move on?
I can't say that I've never had that happen. So I've never had that happen in the van. In the motorhome that I had just before the van, I wasn't in it full time, but I was kind of testing out stealth camping around town. And I was in a Walmart parking lot, and it was only like 11:30 at night. I don't even think it was midnight yet. And somebody came and knocked on the motorhome, and my first instinct was to jump up and kind of look, but I just played dead. And they knocked a few times. They went around the other side and knocked, and then I could hear them get in a vehicle and drive away. So it was either security. I didn't even look out the window. I just laid completely still. They drove away, and then I got up front and then moved. I figured they wanted me out of there. So it's never happened in the van. I have been awoken by noises, and it turns out that where I had picked a park was a group of people decided they're going to hang out right there. They don't know I'm in my van, so I kind of get the feeling that, okay, these people are going to hang out by their car and play music and smoke cigarettes and talk all night. So I'll just sneak up in front of the van, go to drive and find another spot. That's kind of how I handle that.
Yeah, I mean that's a good point there. I've only ever in everything the whole time, like since I've been static, I'd already had a lot of experience picking a spot for the night and whatnot. So since I've been static, I haven't had anybody bother me. Um, I've only been woken up a couple of times because of just noise, like you're talking about. Somebody's spinning Brodies in a parking lot one night, fire engine that went by another night, I mean, just things like that. But I haven't been woken up by anybody as far as people. When I was on my trip, I only had 3 instances of it. Once was I had made the mistake and should have known better. I made the mistake of choosing to park back behind the cost less in like the employee parking at night. So first of all, employees are usually going to know whose vehicle is what, and then when everybody's leaving and you're the only one there, so I got the cops called on me, and the police came in and woke me up, and what I responded to them was that I'd been driving from Coos Bay and towards LA, and I got real tired and I decided to pull over and sleep. They told me that they had an ordinance against it, but they were going to let me stay because I shouldn't be driving when I'm tired. Yeah. And told me to make sure I wasn't there in the morning. So there was that. I had another time that was really my fault. I had chosen to park at a truck stop back where the trucks are. I had my generator out and everything. So I was completely obvious. Running my generator and my AC and everything. And a security guard told me he couldn't have anything but a truck back there. Told me I had to move from there, and but he complimented me on my setup for electricity and having the AC.
Nice.
So, and obviously it just moved, right? So, and then the third time was in Chicago at a Walmart, and they didn't wake me up in the middle of the night. They woke me up before I would have wanted to. About 6:30, the security guy pulled up and sat like right behind the van with the flashing lights. And then he sat there. It woke me up, but I didn't get up. Right? I played quiet to it and came over and he rapped on the door, and he said that they were opening up and they needed me to move on. So. So I just left, right? And I went down the road to the McDonald's and parked there and went back to sleep. So that's how I dealt with it. Let's go ahead and move on to the next question here. I'm going to take like a couple more, and I want to wrap up at 9:15 here.
Okay.
Does your insurance company know that your deal is a self-build camper van, or is it just insured as a van?
No, mine is actually, because it's a cargo van, that was the first thing that I ran into. When I called them and I said I switched from an SUV to what I had before, that's what I had before, they said, well, what's the vehicle type on the registration? It's marked, cargo vans are marked as commercial vehicles. Any van that from the factory does not have seats built into it is considered a commercial vehicle. So they said that they have to insure it as a commercial vehicle because that's what it's registered as. And if I wanted that to change, I would have to change it on the registration. And I talked to the DMV, and they said that can be done. If you install seats into the back of the van, you can register as a passenger van. And if I actually installed a toilet and a sink, then it could be registered as a motorhome. So, but it's currently as commercial right now.
Okay, so basically, your insurance company told you that if you wanted to, that you could have registered it as a motorhome if you had the sink. And what else did you have to have that you could?
I think it's a sink and a toilet is all it needs. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Very cool. if your woman lives in the van with you, how does it work when it's that time of the month? Do you have to stop more often at gas stations, and how does the girl feel about it? I'd like to hear Chris's point on this too, but he's not here. Um, you know, it doesn't really seem to be a big deal. I mean, we have gym memberships, and um, that's how Catalina and I take care of all that kind of stuff. She's never actually complained to me about it. Um, if we were in a national park or something, I have the shower cabana for her to take care of those kind of things. It's too bad that more women that live this lifestyle aren't willing to do live videos. So if there's any of you out there that are actively living either the van life or full-time RVing, and you would like to be on the live streams, please let me know, because I haven't had a whole lot of those people that wanted to go ahead and do that. Those are kind of questions I'd really prefer to have a woman answer. Okay, so next, it's another question for Chris. Wanderlust, why do you think you'll get an older Class A versus a Class C? I'm curious of the large change from van to Class A without visiting the Class C platform. Shout out to JB in Indiana. Okay. So basically, guys, it has to do with a lot of the affordable price point Class Cs. A lot of them have had water leaks. Being that most of them are actually have a wood frame, you have a lot more risk with water penetration. Okay, you don't necessarily know that it has had significant water penetration for quite some time, and it can come up where your walls rotted out and you didn't know about it. So that's one reason. Class A's, they're generally not built that way. They're generally built out of a bus frame, and so you don't have as big of an issue with that. Also, they tend to have a single piece roof, so you have less of an issue with that. And I from what I have seen, they tend to be of higher build quality unless you get into the very expensive Class Cs, and I'm talking about being on a tight budget. So if I'm going to go with an inexpensive, lower quality version of each, I would much prefer a Class A over a Class C all day long, just because of the risks wise with water penetration. Just that's the direction we're going, and not only that, Catalina just likes them better, guys. So if I'm not going to be in a van or a Class B, she can pick whatever she wants. I know what I'd prefer, and I don't really see myself having the funds to be able to afford that at this time. And I definitely want to get into an RV right away. I know that it's uncomfortable being in the van for Catalina, and her comfort's important to me. What do you think about it, Brian? What do you think of Class C versus Class A, or have you done any of that research?
Well, I've owned my first motorhome I bought was a Class C. I bought that, when I first came back from my cross-country trip when I was around 26. It was an older Class C. I think it was 20 feet with the Ford Econoline front end, and it was great. At that time, me and that girlfriend were still together, and when we came back from the trip, we hadn't driven each other crazy, so we wanted to, we got the motorhome, and we knew that not paying rent would allow us to save more money to do another trip, and it was good. Like anything you buy used, and the thing is with motorhomes is they're either have not gotten used a lot, or they've sat. So when you buy it and start using it again, that's when you're going to find out what's wrong with it, or stuff is going to start to go wrong. So I found that the bigger rig you get, the more there is on it to go wrong. That's the way I see it. So the smaller rig you have, the less that can go wrong. But if you need the space, you need the space. So that's the kind of trade-off that you know.
Yeah, totally. There's another question. It says, have you had any run-ins with the police, and were they positive or negative, Brian?
I've never had a run-in with the. I haven't had a run-in with the police yet. I did get one ticket. I was parked in a parking lot that you cannot park in overnight, but you can park there until 2 a.m. And it's at the beach, and I was there late. I planned on leaving. I fell asleep in the van, and I woke up about 2:30, 2:45 in the morning, and I had a ticket on my window. So I've never had a face-to-face run-in. I've had cops drive by me all the time when I'm in day camp mode. I have the side doors open, my little table out, my chair up, and I've gotten waves from cops before. They just drive by, and it's the way I see it. It's just like I'm on vacation. You know, that's what I'm thinking in my head.
So I kind of mentioned it a little bit earlier, but I'll go ahead and say it again. I've only had one run-in with police. It was very reasonable. Other than I got woken up at 2 in the morning. That's not reasonable. No, just kidding. I shouldn't have been where I was, really. Now that I analyze it, having experience, they were very pleasant. I was of course careful with the way I talked to them. When I told them that I needed to when they wanted my ID to run, and I told them I needed to grab my wallet, I made sure they could see my hands, you know, for the concept of their safety and whatnot. And they told me to go ahead and stay, finish sleeping out the night, and make sure I wasn't there in the morning. And that wasn't in a city that has an ordinance against sleeping in a vehicle. So just an FYI, it didn't end up being any big deal, even though I did have that experience. So the next question here, and I think we're gonna wrap it up. So Brian, do you think it's safer to sleep around people or out in the country?
Well, safer. You know, it depends on your. For me, my biggest issue with safety, sleeping in the van in the city, my biggest concern, I'm not concerned about somebody breaking into the van and physically hurting me. I'm concerned about a car running into me. Somebody who's either drunk and veers off and hits me as I'm parked and I'm sleeping in the back. Like if it was a big enough vehicle that if they smash into the back of my van, that's where I sleep. I could get harmed. So I generally try to park if I'm on the street and going to sleep there. I try to park in front of another vehicle, so I'm just not all on my own on the side of the road. Like if someone was to veer off, they'd hit another car before me, type of deal. So if I'm out boondocking in the middle of the desert, I feel much safer. I'm not worried. I'm not the type of person. I grew up camping. I don't worry about being attacked by bears or snakes or some crazy man in the middle of the, you know, I'm peaceful out in nature. So I'd say I feel safer boondocking in nature than in the city.
Guys, I hear so much about like safety, and although I'm not going to say it isn't a concern, and the one Brian brings up is probably the best one, I'd say. People just aren't going around looking for folks sleeping in their RV and their vans to try to rob them or try to hurt them for the sake of hurting them. Another thing is you're less likely to get cased out if you're in a van or an RV because you move. You leave the spot. If you're staying in the same spot, it's a little bit different. But if you're moving on a regular basis, there's less of an issue with it being in a van or an RV than in your home because people can case the home, know when you're sleeping, they know they can watch your living patterns. It's no more difficult for somebody to break into your house than it is for them to break into your van. Okay, it's just not. If somebody wants to break into your house, I can break into your house. So, thinking that you are actually safer in a house over a mobile domicile is not accurate. You're just not. You're not safer. You do feel like it gives you more of a comfort feeling and more of a safe feeling from that. But as far as like break-in or being robbed, you're not safer living in a house than you are living in a mobile domicile. Now, Brian did bring up a good point that as far as you do have a higher possibility of maybe having a vehicle run into you and that kind of thing. That could be a concern. I don't know that that's a common thing, and I guess one way to avoid it is probably to stay away from the bars. What do you think?
Agreed, for sure.
All right, guys. So I think that's the last question in here. We're gonna go ahead and end here. So, Brian, is there any plugs you want to make, buddy?
Well, I do have my YouTube channel. It's AdventureVanMan. You can search for that, and then if you go to the About link on my channel, I have a blog link, my Instagram, Facebook, email, and all that. So, yeah, check it out, guys.
Yeah, guys, and I've actually put a link down below on the YouTube video that'll show up on the recording. So if you want to go up over there and harass Brian, that's cool. Don't troll him too hard.
I can take it. If I could take you and Mike out in Slab City, I can take the trolls.
All right, guys. I just wanted to let you guys know I so much appreciate you guys coming by. If you haven't gone over and saw Social Media Nomads for Chris, go over there and check that out. See what you think of it. Thanks for being here. Get out there, guys. Connect with people. Live your big story. Make sure you're doing something every day to help reduce world suck, guys. Peace.
Right on. Peace, James.